Yeah, so today I'm going to be working questions 49 through 52. Better yet, 43 to 48. Oops, my bad. 43 to 48. Now that's what I'm going to be working on. Okay. So I see 43 here on the screen. Okay. Yesterday, this week, so far we have learned that we can solve all three angles of a triangle, given two of them. So I see that two angles are 51. Combined is 102. So I can solve that the third angle is 78. But there's interesting part here though. Two angles are equal. Huh, two angles are equal. And then I had to find the value of x. It's a side. Two angles are equal. Let me refresh your mind. Let me refresh your mind a little. Let's remember this figure that I showed you earlier, like previous weeks. Remember when we measure the sides of a triangle and we measure the angles of a triangle? Remember that the smallest side was opposite from the smallest angle. Remember we talked about that? And the biggest angle was opposite from the biggest side. What do you think happens when two angles are equal? So let me change these two angles. Let me try to make them as equal as possible. It's about there. It's a little bit off because it's really, really hard to get it off right on. Okay, I'm almost there. But look at these two angles, almost equal. Look at the two sides. They're opposite from each other, almost the same. If I was to able, I was able to, like I really couldn't do it. But if I would have been able to get the two angles that are equal, then guess what? The two opposite sides are equal. So having that said, let me come back to our work here. I see two angles are equal. So I see I'm gonna do it in blue. There's 51 degrees here, and it's opposite to this side. Let me do in red. There's this 51 degrees here, which is opposite to this side. Because those two angles are equal, those two sides that I marked are equal as well. Very interesting part. If two angles are equal, two sides are equal. Now those two sides are equal. So I'm just going to say one side is x, the other side is 22. So I'm just going to say x is equal to 22 because those two sides are equal. Interesting part is my instructions were find the value of x. That's it. I did that already. X equals 22. Easy. Remember, if two sides are equal, two angles are equal. The same thing. If two angles are equal, two sides are equal. So here, for number 44, find the value of C. Okay. But I see that two sides are equal. Okay. Let me highlight it in red. I see this side is 24 and 24 goes with this angle. And I see this side is 24 and this 24 goes with this angle, right? I color in red and blue so we can see where I got those markings from. But because those two sides are equal, those two angles here at the bottom are equal. If I knew the value of one, if I knew the number to one, guess what? I would know the value of the other one, right? If I told you guys, I'm not gonna say this is the answer, but if I said the blue angle's 30, well, the red angle's 30, so C equals 30. Like if that was there. But like I said, I'm not gonna say this is true. I'm not gonna say this is 30. I'll just give you an example. Now, I see that I don't have two angles of a triangle, right? In order for me to solve the third angle, I need to know at least two. However, I know that because this red angle is C, I'm going to call this blue angle C as well, right? I'm going to use the same letter because I know they are equal. Now I see something about each of my angles. C, and 74. And I remembered at the beginning of the week, we learned that if you add the three angles of a triangle, it's equal to 180. So I'm going to say C plus C plus 74 is equal to 180. Let me separate them through the equal sign. Letter-wise, 1C plus 1C is equal to 2C. So I have the 2C plus 74 is equal to 180. I just simplified the left side. I want to get rid of this plus 74. I'm going to move it to the other side as a minus 74. So I have that 2C is equal to 106. Right? 180 minus 74 is 106. To get C by itself, let me divide both sides by 2, because then I get C by itself. 106 divided by 2 is 53. So there, each of these angles was 53. If two angles are equal, that means two sides are equal. That's why we saw number 43. If two sides are equal, then that means two angles are equal. That's why we saw number 44. But I said I was going to work up until 48. So let's take a look at number questions 43 to 48. Let me flip my page. So 45 here. I see markings here. Let me highlight them in red. I see those two markings. What those things are telling me, because I marked two sides the same way, what that thing is telling me is that these two sides are equal. Oh, okay. So that means that these two angles are equal. I know one of them is X. The other one, I'm going to call it X as well because they're equal. So I'm going to use the same number. The instructions are find the value of X. Okay, but I see something above my three angles. I'm going to add the three angles. 1X plus 1X plus 34 is equal to 180. Let me separate my sides through the equal sign. Let me simplify the left side. 1X plus 1X, that's 2X. Number-wise, I see plus 34, and I know all of this is equal to 180. I want the 2X by itself, so this plus 34, let me move it over as a minus 34. And I'm going to move it to the other side. Don't forget to switch the side. So I have that 2X is equal to 180 minus 34 is 146. So I have that 2 times X equals 146. To have X by itself, let me divide by 2. So X equals 146 divided by 2 happens to be 73. Now let's take a look at number 46. I see 120 degrees there. So I'm going to say this other angle here is 60 degrees. The reason why is because this angle with this other angle make half of a circle. Half of a circle is 180. So if one of them is 120, the other one is 60, right? Because combined has to be 180. Okay, I'm solving for X, not just that corner. Interesting here, though. Let me go blue this time. Actually, let me just go back to blue here. I'm going to say this is 60 degrees. So let me go back to red. I see the three sides are marked. So the three sides are equal. So that means the three angles. So this angle with this angle and this angle, they're also equal. When the three angles are equal, the three sides are equal. The same way around. If the three sides are equal, then the three angles are equal. So all of them are the same number. I know one of them is 60, the other one has to be 60, and then obviously this one has to be 60. So find the value of X. Well, X is 60. Remember, you just type in the number. Let's take a look at number 47. Two triangles combined. I'm asking you to solve for the value of x, kind of like I did before. If I give you two triangles, don't start on the triangle that has the x. Right? As a matter of fact, start with the triangle that has a number. Something about numbers. That's what I like. But here, one interesting part, I'm looking at, let me put it in green. I'm looking at this triangle. In this triangle, I see two sides are equal, right? This side and this side. So let me mark the opposite angles. This side right here goes with this angle, and this side at the bottom goes with this angle. Each of those angles are equal as well. So one of them is 65. I'm going to say the other one is 65 as well. They're equal. I can find the third angle of that triangle because I remembered all three add up to 180. So what I'm going to do, given two of them, let me add the two that I have. 65 plus 65 is 130. Minus 180, subtracted from 180. So 180 minus 130 is 50. So that means this third angle right here, it is 50. Because the three angles of a triangle add up to 180. Now remember vertical angle theorem as well. When there's an X form, opposite angles are equal. So I'm going to say this corner here is 50. Then let me highlight in blue this second triangle. In red, I see two sides are marked. This side with this side. They're marked the same way, two slashes. So that means the measurement. What that means is that the size of each side are equal. So that those two sides are equal. So from the first side, I'm gonna mark the opposite angle. And from the other side, I'm gonna mark the opposite angle. Those two angles are equal. So one of them is 50. I'm gonna say the other one is 50 as well. In that blue triangle, I know two angles, 50 and 50. If I combine it, 50 plus 50 is 100. Let me subtract that from 180. So I'm going to find out that the third angle is 80. Now, I see angle 80 and I see angle X. Combined, they seem to make half of a circle, right? The angle of a line. So that means that X plus 80, right, combined is equal to 180 because half of a circle is 180. We separate through the equal sign, my plus 80, let me move it over as a minus 80. So X is equal to 100. Nice, that was fun. I did some work. Let's take a look at number 48 here. I'm going to start with the number there, 154. And I'm going to say this is 154. I can solve this other angle here. Combine is 180, right? So 180 minus 154, it's 26. So this little corner here is 26. Okay, what other number do we know? There's a 90, right? You see the red box? That corner is 90, but that is these two little angles combined. So what's 90 minus 26? Let me see, 90 minus 26 is 64. So it means this little corner here is 64. Because combined has to be 90, right? Ooh, interesting though. Now I see this side and this side are marked the same way. Let me mark the two opposite angles, the angles opposite from each side. Oh, one of them is 64, the other one is 64 as well. I can solve for x now because I see that triangle. The three angles always add up to 180. So I'm going to write x plus 64 plus 64 equals 180. Let me separate to the equal sign. Letter-wise, I only have one x. Number-wise, 64 plus 64, that's 128. And all of this is equal to 180. I want to get rid of the plus 128, so let me move it over as a minus 128. 180 minus 128 is 52. So x equals 52. That's pretty cool.